Good morning and welcome to episode 53, or what I'm calling episode 1 of season 2, but I've been told I'm not allowed to call it that. Aaron wants the big numbers. So episode 53 of Ask the Accountant. We are here as ever on a Monday morning at 8:30 to say hello to everybody. If you are tuning in live, why not tune in and stick your comments in the comments boxes on whatever social media platform you are watching us on, because we are on all of them. So, as ever, here today is Mr. Aaron Patrick. Aaron, how are you? You made it home after Friday's debacle.
Yes, just. So, what's the weather like your end? We've not had weather watch for a while. What's it doing?
You can't really see much, but it's blue skies, cloud. Well, not even much cloud, to be fair. Blue skies and sunshine. Bloody cold, but we've had this for the last 36 hours.
Really?
So,
okay.
Yeah.
So if I put it that on all our social media channels at the moment in our local area, people are on canoes floating through car parks, just admiring damaged vehicles. that seems to be a trend on ours at the moment. Yeah, we're a little bit sodden down here in the Midlands, so much so that I went to London on Friday to go to QuickBooks. Ask the Expert is back, so I'm very, very excited about that. So
you're allowed to say that. Are we allowed to announce that?
Yeah. It's official.
Cool.
It's all official.
That's great news that he's come back.
Yeah, Ask the Expert is back, and I'm so excited. I couldn't be more happy for that. But during that time there, it was brilliant. We're filming that. Went to go home. My train was cancelled. I thought, oh well, one train. What's the problem with one train? Happens every now and again, right? I'll just jump on the next one. No problem whatsoever. No, every train was cancelled to Derby. Well, every train was cancelled to the Midlands. So yeah, after jumping between multiple trains and final taxi thing there, it basically was our story to Reading in reverse. So yeah, it was fun times on the train. And thing is though, like, it wasn't the train's fault. Like, I can't complain at trains. I can't complain with people. Like, at the end of the day, we're underwater. But there's this big push that they want us to use trains. They want us to use trains more. But every time, I've just had problem after problem after problem with them at the moment. So yeah. It's a tricky one, isn't it? It's a tricky one.
Yeah, I mean, my mother-in-law went up to Inverary, which is north of Aberdeen, to see some old friends. She went up Thursday, was meant to come back Saturday, finally got home about 5:30 yesterday. Like, just flooding all over the place, roads closed because of landslips and trees falling down, and yeah. So hopefully none of our listeners are too heavily impacted by any of that. But yeah, so before we go on to all the other stuff we want to talk about, let's talk about QuickBooks Ask the Expert, because that's kind of how you and I met. So that's really exciting. I mean, we've known it's been coming back for a while, but we can now talk about it. So QuickBooks Ask the Expert was a morning podcast, 5 days a week, through video, Facebook, everywhere, back during COVID. It was QuickBooks' immediate response to COVID and to supporting small businesses. They got people like myself and Aaron, Ariona, various others, and then as well as accounting experts, they got non-accounting experts. So like Meryl from who does all the legal stuff. We've got all sorts of marketing people. We had some former winners of The Apprentice on. Like, we had a huge array of people all in there, all sharing insights and advice, explaining the latest news from Downing Street, what those new grants and stuff meant. And it was absolutely fantastic to do that amazing resource and be part of that journey. Everyone just volunteered the time.
Some of us were talking about furlong,
yes. But yeah, it was just amazing to volunteer our time to a project like that, which we knew was helping so many small businesses. It was multiple award nominated. I want to say winning as well. Yeah. So yeah, it was a very well received.
Yeah.
So very well received project. After COVID, it got put to bed a bit. They reduced the amount of frequency and stuff, and then it's not really happened for about a year.
No.
So what's the plan? What's the focus of QuickBooks Ask the Expert going forwards?
So the new style of it is in person, which is cool. So again, as you mentioned before,
Couldn't do that during COVID.
Yeah, exactly. It was purely, literally from our bedrooms, wasn't it? It was, especially that pilot. If you ever go back, you ever look at the pilot episode. Literally, I think I had a load of washings done in the back of one of the shots. So our times have changed. Exactly. But no, it's all in person now, and the idea is that there'll be a rotating guests and rotating hosts, I believe. But we've shot the first 3 episodes, so we come out monthly, and we go and we basically interview. They've definitely, and that they'll be happy to admit this. They've definitely taken some of our cues from We Have Cool Friends. They like that vibe. They wanted that sort of energy and that sort of conversational. So they've kind of taken that as a their own way of looking at it, and then they put their own spin on it, which is cool. So yeah, it's all in person. It's all at QuickBooks HQ. First 3 episodes included Rapinda as episode number 1, so that'll be a nice one to talk about how QuickBooks and what's happened there and everything else that goes forward. Then we had a sole trader that brought in, and then we've got a marketing expert as well that came on board as well. And I won't ruin who those are, we'll leave them as a surprise. But yeah, it was a brilliant day of filming, and I'm really looking forward to go and push that live. Because
is that still targeting small businesses, or are they niching it back down to supporting accounting and bookkeeping firms?
Trying to be both, trying to be both at the same time. So, yeah, which I'm all up for, and I think it's a nice little one. I think the first 3 episodes will probably be more focused at accountants, episode 1 and 3 will be focused more at accountants, but yeah, it's definitely going to be looking at both of them. So, yeah, I'm just glad that it's back. Kind of felt like it was pilot episodes again, and we were kind of finding the feet and everything else. So yeah, looking forward to where that goes. And it's needed in this industry, right? Like when you can look at what the competitors are doing, they've got their own little shows and stuff. It's cool to see that back, and cool to see that format's making a return. So really, really excited for that to go live.
Definitely very happy to see that back, and fond memories of early mornings and sound checks and speed checks and everything else that we used to have to do for the team that were running those. So yeah, that was
Harry was there, who was the person doing the actual.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so it was a nice little full circle of this is where it started. This was the virtual,
and it's kind of where we picked up from, isn't it? Where that ended, we picked up with Ask the Accountant. So
the reason it's called Ask the Accountant.
There's a reason you've introduced it wrong so many times.
Yeah. Oh, the amount of times during that I was going, and welcome to Ask the Accountant. Nope. Restart.
That'll teach you for moonlighting.
I do it on both sides. I'm inconsistent. Don't worry.
Brilliant. So yeah, no, really happy to see that back, because that's where we kind of met properly and got the ideas from. So absolutely fantastic. Right, let's go through the comments before we move on to our first topics, or any further topics. So we've got good morning to Paul, good morning Louise, good morning Kirsty, good morning James Tax, good morning Natasha. Cheryl is saying it's foggy in South Yorkshire. Paul has said it certainly helped me during the pandemic with the Ask the Expert. Oh, I nearly did it there. He reckons that's the reason he's becoming addicted to watching us every Monday morning. Okay, I'm not sure you can class Ask the Expert as a gateway to us and an addiction, but okay. And good morning to Paul as well. Of course, throughout the episode, guys, if you are watching live, then stick your comments in and let us know your thoughts on all the topics we're covering. This is going to be the final week for you to put in your suggestions for the new title for this very episode or this very series. So every Monday morning, we go live with Ask the Accountant. But what we have got is some fantastic other brands. So Ask the Accountant, we've got Cool Friends. Ask the Accountant Podcast Pit Stop. Ask the Accountant Grid Walk. we've got all these great brands. We feel this one needs a slight rename. So Ask the Accountant will always be the overarching brand, but we want to name this like we have the grid walk and stuff, so people know what they're tuning into. So if you've got any suggestions that you haven't put in already, put them into the comments. We are collating them all, and there will be a poll going out. Everybody loves a good poll, bit of social media interaction. So we'll be putting polls out across LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube for you to choose your vote for your favorite one. And of course, the winner wins a complete set of laminated Top Trump Season 1 cards. There's Aaron quickly getting his cards ready. It's all there, sat there, ready to go.
And a taxi.
And a blank taxi receipt for you to put whatever expense in you want. That was a whole different matter. So if you've got any suggestions for names that you've not already put in, please stick them in the comments, and we will collate them all and do a poll in the coming weeks. But this is the last week for you to stick them in. We need to send producer Lizzie going through the comments to find them all now.
Yeah, because ideally for our first episode in November, we want to have the new branding sorted.
Definitely do. Especially since I'll be on location for that episode.
It's going to be interesting. Yeah, that'll be a spicy episode.
Could be quite hot, yeah.
Yeah.
Hotter than it is here by about 20 odd degrees.
If he's got enough alcohol in him, maybe that's the time to find out some real truths. Johann, what's your opinion on XYZ? Well, let me tell you.
Sit down, lads. I'm going to tell you a story. Cool. Okay. So, as we embark onto year 2 of Ask the Accountant, blank, because we don't know what we're calling it yet.
Yeah.
We wanted to just thank everyone who listens and watches us, because in year 1, we surpassed 30,000 watches and listens. Now, that's not 30,000 impressions. That impressions number is far, far, far higher. Aaron's got... Oh, there we go. Fireworks going. Brilliant. 30,000 times our videos have been watched and our podcasts have been listened to, or our live streams have been watched and tuned into. So thank you very much to everybody over the last year that has done that and listened to us and keeps coming back to listen to us. You poor, poor people. I don't know why you keep coming back. I mean, I only put it on to fall asleep at night when I can't sleep. But 30,000 listens and watches, Aaron. Not bad for 1 year, is it?
Not bad at all. Are you going to put the cheer in this?
Oh, hang on. Where's the button? Oh, yeah.
I'm going to do this. There we are.
There we go.
Brilliant. Yeah,
1 year in, and we still aren't professional enough to do the cheers and the confetti at the same time.
That is absolutely brilliant. And again, we've said this a few times, and we'll just reiterate the fact that we just had an idea one day at Accountex, around a pint, and here we are. And it's really, really humbling to kind of think about how many listens and stuff we had in that first year. And what it gives us is that opportunity to have a springboard, right? That we can then go off and do some really interesting ideas that we've got. I think we've come up with some great ideas, these being some of them. But with that sort of, listenership and that sort of community gives us an opportunity to keep pushing that and going forward. So watch this space. We've got some great ideas in the pipeline.
We certainly have. It's going to be an exciting year 2. Okay, so let's crack on with the news. I'm going to mix this up a bit compared to the order.
Go for it.
You're mates with the guys at Bright and accountancy manager, Aaron? Well, you were until about 2 weeks ago. Did your leaving accountancy manager result in Kevin, the CEO, getting sacked?
Oh, now there's a thing here. I don't know. I mean, I think we were saying off air, weren't we? The most poignant part about this was how quiet it was. So
for anyone that's not seen it, Bright, who've got Bright Pay, BTC, Bright Propose, Bright Company's House, whatever they were calling that, and accountancy manager. I've probably missed something there, but Surf, the bookkeeping tool in Ireland or wherever it is. For those that aren't aware, Bright have replaced their CEO. So Kevin was with Bright. He went from free agent to accountancy manager, and in the acquisition from accountancy manager, he took over as the CEO for Bright. He seems to have just disappeared very, very quickly and quietly.
22 around that time, wasn't it? It was when we were at Accounting Web, wasn't it? Accounting Web
21, 22. It was probably the end of 21, I think.
Okay.
He got brought in because that was his first event. Was Accounting Web the first one?
Yeah.
Bright have just announced the appointment of a new CEO. And it's like, well, hang on a minute, what's happened to the last one? No announcement whatsoever about Kevin, whether he's retiring, moving on to projects new, absolutely nothing, which is normally means something's happened or someone's not performing, like in the corporate world. But do we know what the pedigree of the new CEO is like, Aaron? Do we know what this might symbolize? Because normally when you get a new CEO like this, it normally symbolizes maybe a change in direction or a refocus on something.
I know their refocus is this new One Bright initiative, I think they're calling it. Basically the one ecosystem to rule them all sort of idea. So I kind of see that maybe, because one of the things I praised Bright for at the very beginning, after the AM, the accounting manager acquisition, was that they were basically pushing a lot of people from accounting manager into higher roles, because accounting manager was their best performing product in terms of kind of external looking out, in terms of what they were doing and innovations and all that sort of stuff. So it made sense that when Bright acquired them, then to not only acquire the tech but also the clever people behind it. And that's where Kevin came from, wasn't it? That's where we've got various people who've gone up through the ranks, and they've all got really high leadership roles in Bright. And for me, that was quite humbling. It was it was always a great little love story sort of idea, that sort of idea, where it was this great story where accounting manager gets acquired and not just stripped like certain people out there do. Certain other organizations would acquire and strip and mutilate, but in this case it was acquire and actually prosper and push and bring them up to. And it just feels like, this is a whole new way of moving forward, and it's a strange one, because I thought there was a nice little fit there. It felt like it was a match made in heaven from the outside looking in. Clearly it wasn't. Like, that's naive of me to say that looking back, but it felt like it was all going quite well. I know they've had their problems in terms of accounting manager and stuff, and I've documented it on the show before, but I believe that was more of a just them trying to keep everyone happy sort of thing. Too many too many people to look after at any one point as they were doing the transition or whatever it was going to be. I didn't think that it was as problematic as it must have been if they've had this very quiet change of the guard. There's been other promotions as well, which is good to see. So it looks like there's been a whole change of leadership by the looks of it. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what goes forward. Is this them thinking that maybe it's time to stop acquiring, just work on what they've got and steady the ship? If this is One Bright initiative is what's going forward, that possibly going to be the way. What do you think?
Yeah, it does seem odd that there's been a change so covertly, and to just but then to release a press statement about the new CEO. It seems a bit odd, but when I go back to my corporate days before my current life, the only time that kind of thing happened was ever when someone had been let go, encouraged out the door and not to return, or had been a naughty boy or girl and got themselves into a bit of trouble. So I can't believe Kevin would have, done anything like that. I do think it's probably a change of strategy, but I don't know how friendly and hospitably it was done. But yeah, as you say, it seems to have reverberated into a few changes of leadership roles. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the new focus is from Bright, because as you say, they've got all these options, and we're now, they do need to plug it all into that one product concept. So yeah, maybe this new leadership team is going to be has got more of a skill set to achieve that and to roll that out, which makes sense to then make those changes.
I do feel like the only thing they're missing is a proper, as we now have to call it, FMS solution, bookkeeping solution, whatever the phrase is going to be going forward. But they are missing. I know they've got Surf, which is, seems like it's a fantastic product, but it does seem like it's very, well, it's not for the UK market, right? Like, it's not built for that, and I don't know if that's an easy, quick change to move it over. So I wonder, is their new focus going to be more based on that? I mean, the person coming in fairness, I've just done a quick Google, is a very tech focused one, worked with a consulting firm called Micro Focus and worked with Dell and IBM, so he seems to have pedigree in tech, fintech and everything else. So yeah, maybe this is the right, they've kind of acquired, and now it's time to just get that ecosystem up and running. So yeah, I mean, we've seen it, haven't we? Because they've had their Bright Propose, which was internally built from the ground up. The first thing they built for a long time, really, apart from Accounting Manager, because the rest have all been acquisitions. I suppose BrightPay was built internally, wasn't it, back in the day? But yeah,
and BrightPay Cloud, that was internally built.
Yeah.
Whether you want to claim to that or not is a different matter, but
yeah,
that went well.
Yeah, well, moving swiftly on. But yeah, I mean, they need it, right? And we've said it before. I feel like Bright have an opportunity, if done right, to be able to take on the likes of Iris and be that full ecosystem. And now QuickBooks went into it with their ecosystem. Like, that's what they want to do, right? They want to become that next big ecosystem for accountants. So yeah, hopefully this is a good move for them. Fingers crossed for them. They definitely need a shot in the arm, don't they? They need something to push them to that next level. Maybe this is the right way for them.
Yeah, definitely. So speaking of acquisitions, Comma. Does anyone remember who Comma was? So Comma was a bulk payment platform that just never really got traction in the UK. They couldn't decide on their pricing point or their pricing model for that matter. They couldn't get into do integrations easily with the likes of QuickBooks, Xero, etc. I mean, they were in Employment Hero for a bit, but Employment Hero then basically cancelled them, saying it wasn't working for anybody. Well, for the partnership wasn't working for either side of the partnership. So, but last week it was announced that Comma will be brought to an end as of the 1st of November. Comma is no more. So Comma got acquired earlier this year, I want to say. But they've obviously decided there's nothing. Either they've taken the technology and built it into the acquirer's own tech stack, or they've decided actually there's not much we can do with this. We're just going to shut it down and write it off. So within an hour of this news breaking, I had one of our peers on the LinkedIn messaging saying, "How good's Apron? Can it replace Comma?" It's like, oh, yes, it can. So, anyone that's got Comma or has still got a few clients lagging around on Comma, from the 1st of November, it will be turned off. And if anyone's looking for a solution to replace it, I highly recommend Apron. Fantastic team, very quick and responsive with feedback and developing on the back of that feedback. They've got a fantastic bill payment and payroll payment solution out there already. Very well tested, very well used. And they're bringing out Snap, as we discussed last week as well. So I think they're going to become an integral part of many people's tech stacks. So if you're using comma and you're looking for a replacement, Apron would be my recommendation. Any thoughts or insights on this one, Aaron?
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? Because they seem to be bringing something to the table. The fact that they got in that Employment Hero opportunity there, and that they had that's where I found them anyway, or at least.
Yeah, you know what my concern is here is comma talk the talk.
Yeah.
But they never really walked the walk. But they convinced people like Employment Hero to do an integration. A lot of time, resources, and money got poured into building that integration.
Who else has got the integration at the moment? Is it Modular? Who else is it?
Modular or Telaroo?
It might be Telaroo then, right? Yeah. But there is one of them, there, right? Because we're always restricted by who was those.
Yeah.
Partners.
But then, comma struggling, shall we say, and bringing very little to the party in the form of new users for Employment Hero, it's got to sour the opinions of the leadership team somewhere, and they kind of go, yeah, we've done an integration before and it didn't go well, so it puts them off further integrations in the future.
Yeah.
So people like comma coming along, talking the talk and getting the integrations in place, whether working or not, different matter. Whether they brought anything to the party in the form of new leads, as it were, for Employment Hero, different matter. But by them not delivering and then shutting down, it kind of sours the appetite for more integrations and investing more time and money into building integrations out collaboratively with others.
I agree, but you're part of a development team now, right? You've got client engagement. At what point does someone like Client Engager, Employment Hero, I know very different budgets here, but at what point do you go, well, instead of doing these bespoke integrations, we look at some sort of public facing SDK like QuickBooks has, with the App Store, like Xero have, and everything else. I mean, they have their own problems, don't get me wrong. I mean, QuickBooks will be the first to say that they've not updated their SDK in a long, long time, which has caused us no end of issues. But when
Xero don't relinquish control because you have to apply for certification, and only 25 of your users can use it until they've certified you, which can take up to 3 months.
And potentially a revenue split involved in that as well. There's all sorts of there's a whole different issue, right? But at what point do companies go, right, well, like you said, these resources of having to prevent us from releasing XYZ feature because we're going to work with this partner to build up this partnership and go from there. At what point is that tipping point to go, you know what, let's just give some SDKs out, some public APIs out there for an SDK, and let's just push it from there. What's that tipping point, do you think? Because Employment Heroes clearly not felt like they're at that point, which is strange, okay? Because it felt like they're a big enough company to have that. We'll come to why in a moment, but that they seem to have the resources to do it. I'm not saying it's the right time for Client Engager, but you've clearly come to the point where that's not the right time for you either. So when is that? Because what happens is you have the accounting manager's story where they make this big song and dance about them having a relationship with Go Proposal, and it felt like that was a match made in heaven. Clearly got me excited because I went back to Go Proposal for the first time in 2-3 years or whatever it was at that point. So I jumped on the bandwagon there. So their resources at this point seemed like it was a worthwhile investment to have that partnership going. And then a couple of years down the line, they release a bribe proposal and they just have to kill it. So all of that resource has now been wasted on both sides, right? Because it's now, it's irrelevant. So at what point is it, let's not put the resources into individual partnership, but let's put the resources into a open API ecosystem? Have you had those conversations at Client Engager, or?
We haven't yet. As you say, we're at a very different part of the journey. We're still very focused on APIs. Now, we are trying to open doors and talk to people who we want APIs with. Whether they're as willing to sit down around a table or not is a very different matter. So, when we're looking at our APIs, though, we do try and put stats and statistics behind it So we can turn around to someone we might be looking to pair up with and say, look, we know how successful these APIs are with our other partners. That this is the lead generation we're creating by just you plugging into us.
Yeah.
This is the interest we're creating by you just plugging into us. So there is value to be had there. But I don't think in the Comma Employment Hero scenario, I think Comma were hoping for instead of that Comma producing opportunities for Employment Hero, I think they were hoping Employment Hero integration was going to create them opportunities, and it didn't. For whatever reason that is, whether it was the pricing model, the functionality, who knows. But yeah, it's a tough one, because in theory we could just build out an open API, but to do that you need to be fairly happy that everything we're going to do going forward isn't going to interrupt that API, because at the moment we're doing such fundamental changes to our foundations that it will knock the API out every time and it'll need to be rebuilt. So yeah, it's finding that point in the journey when you're happy to do it.
Yeah, you guys are at that part of your progression where actually you need to be really careful of who you partner with, right? You've got to be very, very careful, and there's got to be a mutual benefit for both partners. But I wonder what that tipping point is. Like, again, Employment Hero hasn't reached that one, so Comma spent all this resources and Employment spent resources, and now both of them are burnt, right? Like, I don't expect Employment Hero to jump at the chance to go with, I don't know, we've been pushing for X, Y, and Z to partner with them, right? And that's doesn't seem to be getting anywhere because of my looks of it. It's because of situations like this where they've been burnt in the past. I just wonder what you believe that tipping point must be, where you go, right, well, let's stop burnt and let's just make it open to anyone.
Yeah, I think there's a huge amount of investment in resources and financially to build that. And you've got to be confident that it's not going to break your system. But also, it depends on your attitude towards partnerships. Like, do they want to try and monetize that partnership? Because if they do, then they don't want to just have an API. Because if anyone can just plug in them. But it's also, we had a discussion with a software vendor a couple of weeks ago about the journey and the ownership of that journey. And they wanted to be able to power features either themselves or with partners that they had control of that journey, because ultimately their worry was, this is our customer that we're exposing to software XYZ. We want to make sure that it's safe, secure, and meets minimum standards of and expectations of functionality.
And I suppose also they're able to support, right? Like,
yes,
if it's a fundamental piece of functionality and it goes wrong, then the first person that customer's going to go isn't going to be XYZ the partners with, it's going to be the software they're currently using, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a brand reputational issue there. There's a trust issue there. So yeah, it is very convoluted. It's not a black and white yes, no. And I can also, when you look at it like that, you can understand why softwares are not overly keen to have APIs at times. This leads into a conversation you and I have been having for months, and we've spoke about on this podcast for months, and Accounting Web have been covering in the last couple of weeks of the lack of integrations between different softwares. It's not just a plug and go. It's if that goes wrong, what's the reputational damage? What's the functional damage to the other softwares? So yeah, it's a very fine balancing act. I don't know the answer to it at the moment.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, won't it? If this, because Comma's like, that story's been and gone, but it's what else happens. I think that's the overriding conversation, isn't it? It's what happens now. Is this why people haven't jumped? Like we've already shouted about them already. Apron is one we push and push, but doesn't seem to be any major integrations at the moment. Now, either that's because they internally don't want the integrations, they're not been actively pushing for them, or because people are a bit scared of, well, do we put an investment into a new startup that might not be here in X amount of time? We don't believe that with April one bit, but that could be part and parcel of the conversation, right? Of, well, do we want another comma on our hands? And that it's got to be a net, isn't it?
I suppose my overriding message to these software providers that are being burnt, for want of a better term, is don't close your doors because of one problem.
Yeah.
But review your internal processes and review how you assess who you will and won't work with. Improve and make that more, strengthen that process by all means, but don't just close your doors just because one has gone wrong. But yeah, it's a shame that, Comma, because I think you and I looked at Comma back in 21, 22, like they talk the talk, but they just never seem to get anywhere.
Yeah.
And I would, from a software developer's point of view, I'd want to see results before I did an integration. So yeah, interesting one. Definitely interesting. I think Comma were just too focused on investment and an acquisition in the long run. That they were trying to look good to a board of venture investors and stuff, and I don't know that it went overly well.
Just before we move on, like with this, I feel like it's a pain point us accountants have had for long enough, right? It is a painful part of a service we've always wanted to offer, right? Like it makes sense if we could offer it, and there's so many barriers to entry for us to help our clients make payments, and especially to employees. It's a huge area, right? A huge pain point. I wonder why, though, there's been so many opportunities to have these integrations. Why, the likes of, if you go through all of them, Brightpay, Sage, all of them, like Sage Pay and they just, there's a reluctance for this. Do you think, and this is tinfoil hat time, do you think a lot of them are going, let's not spend this time in investing in integrations? They seem to have a model that works, so let's replicate that model.
Yeah, I think there's a certain degree of it is, can we do it ourselves?
Yeah.
Like, would that get a better return on investment than integrating into them? Like, at Client Engager, we're very clear that we don't want to be building out our own AML processes. Like, not when you've got someone like Zama who is completely smashing it at the moment.
Yeah.
We want the ability to help our clients capture better quality bank data. We don't want to have to build all that ourselves, so we partner with Analytics. So, yeah, I think, but I don't think that's overly common in the software market. People are looking at it going, oh, I could probably build that functionality ourselves and get a better return on investment.
Yeah,
that's something we could sell. Like, that's a bolt-on we could sell. I'm not convinced that's true.
Yeah,
and I question how many times that conversation's had versus how many times they actually deliver on it, and successfully, should I add. So yeah,
it's going to be interesting, isn't it? I just hope this isn't a closed door scenario, like you said, because I mean, we don't help the matter with this fact that, well, I personally have been telling everyone that going forward with AI, then actually, instead of having lots and lots of integrations and having this best in class in every solution, then actually we might be better off having just one closed shop, one ecosystem to rule them all, which is what Bright's trying to build, right? Because then AI could be more useful between it, and that's quite dangerous for innovation, isn't it? If we all went back to our own little ecosystems and we're all quite happy in there, then the likes of Apron and the likes of Comma and all them like innovators, they'll be dead in the water as soon as they get released, won't they?
It depends how you build the integrations, because so if you look at Client Engager and Zama, right? Zama's got all the data, but we're pulling through summary data into Client Engager.
Yeah.
So if we were to have an AI tool,
two-way integration, right?
So if we were to have an AI tool in Client Engager, for example, we'd still have enough data coming through from the partner product to be able to make use of it. So just because there's two products there. It doesn't mean the AI couldn't see it. It would depend on the two-way collaboration of how you build it, and where the data is stored and where it's coming from. So, in theory, I could go, hey, whatever, show me the latest bank fetch or latest bank transaction report for client ABCD Limited in Client Engager. Now, in theory, that's been provided by Analytics, but because of the way we've built that integration, it's stored in Client Engager as well. So actually, we can request that information. So it depends on the openness of the APIs. If if they built it with where it's a two-way sync rather than a one-way thing, then it doesn't have to be an all-in-one shop for an AI to be a powerful tool. But it does require collaboration.
Yeah, which then limits the, and it's definitely the right way for Client Engager, because you guys are going out there, you're doing your due diligence, and you're picking what you believe is best in class in category A, category B, and category C. But that means that that's limiting the user to those individual ones, right?
Yep.
Whereas most of these open API conversations we're talking about, if at bigger scale, like Employment Hero, for example, and QuickBooks, you're going to want choice. You want to have that opportunity to plug X, Y, and Z in, right? And then that surely limits the amount that you could get through AI.
There's no reason why Stream Connect can't plug into Client Engager instead of Analytics. There's no reason why FirmCheck can't plug into Client Engager instead of Zama. They've just they've not approached us for that conversation.
Yeah.
And why, we've got a solution. We don't need to approach them for that. We've not got clients, users saying, really want this one as well. So whilst there's no user demand and we've got a solution, we're not going to go out there and find ourselves more work. Now, if they came to us and said, we want to plug in, we'll have that conversation. That's not an issue. There's no exclusivity deals in place or anything like that. We've not ring-fenced the pay now button to be powered by a certain software vendor for 5 years or anything daft like that. We have just built into people that were willing to talk to us at the early stages.
Yeah.
So there's no reason why we can't have APIs to 5+ AML tools, to 5+ payment tools, to 5+ bank fetch tools, whatever it is. It can be done, but we've got a solution. Our users are using it. If those it's up to those vendors to come to us. We're not going to go out and create work for ourselves with APIs that no one's asking for. So, I suppose our philosophy is somewhat different to a lot, but it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
Don't expect to be asked to dance if you don't stand up and go looking for a dance. I think that's a. No, is that an? Maybe. Yeah. I think I've used it in.
Basically, it's a full stop on the comma, isn't it? Comma conversation.
All right, Tom Herbert, calm down. Right. Okay. Just quickly going through the comments. So, Paul Keating asked the accountant, trending now, like that. We will add that to the list. Good morning to Sue. Let's add a exclamation mark. Ask the accountant, trending now. Yep. Okay. Paul says MTD ITSA could bring a lot more integrations for Client Engager and similar products, I imagine. You know what, though, Paul? I don't think it will. I think the only integrations it's going to bring is HMRC, because MTD ITSA is not changing the attitude of the software vendors.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, if anything, it makes them think I'll do something myself.
It's made people like QuickBooks go and look at practice management, haven't they?
Yeah.
Now, we can argue if they did they'd made the right practice management yet, but that's the whole point of them, right? They want to support accountants in supporting their clients. So that's the change that's happened, right? It's that you've got a lot of work on your plate to do it, but I think you're right. I think HMRC need to open up and have a robust API integration for any practice management solution to have any hope of being able to deliver MTD.
Well, like, look at Dext. In theory, they could have built out more links to more bookkeeping providers, FMS systems, because of MTD ITSA. They built their own MTD ITSA thing, solution. A strong word, solution, but they brought their own tool. Even the word tools implies it's useful. They brought something to the market because they decided, instead of integrating further, which, to be fair, they've got a wide amount of integrations already, but I think software vendors are looking at MTD ITSA going, right, how can this give us a bigger cut of the pie? And it's not through APIs and integrations, in their opinions. So, yeah, I'm not convinced MTD ITSA is going to bring in any further integrations at all, if I'm honest, because, you know, a practice management, yeah, we'll link to MTD ITSA, HMRC, and do all of that, but it's not a high barrier to entry. Just that means, you know, like if TaxCalc or KPM or anyone else decide we need that HMRC information, we best go, how are we going to get it? They're not going to go, oh, we'll get it through Client Engage or Accountancy Manager, who have already got the links. They'll go, right, we'll link to HMRC ourselves. Yeah. Like, yeah, I don't think it's creating any barrier to entry whatsoever. So I don't think it's going to create any further integrations necessarily that are directly responsible because of MTD ITSA.
And arguably, why hasn't these integrations already been there for? We're talking about MTD ITSA, but MTD BAT should already be in that solution, right?
Yeah,
and that's what we should be pushing for. Why isn't it an easy API that any accounting, practice management solution can figure out if you've got an overdue VAT return or
not? Technically, it is. No one's just no one's done it.
Okay, fair enough. But
like, there's an MTD. It's a MTD VAT API for agent authorization, etc. It's already there. No one's plugged into it. But watch this space, because Client Engage is about to plug into it next month. So,
but in theory, though, like, again, one of your biggest USPs is that idea that you can't complete a task if you filed a set of accounts unless the company's house tell you have, right? Like, that's been since day one. But why is that not available through HMRC? Because of HMRC. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's just not. But then why would HMRC be inclined to have that feature in their API when no other practice management uses the company's house one like we do?
True.
Like, if that was such a cool feature, then every practice management software would have that feature.
Yeah.
So, anyway, moving on. Otherwise, this could go downhill pretty rapidly.
You said we're not going to cover our topics.
Yeah, I know, right? Employment Hero have just been valued at £2 billion in their latest raising of, so it's round F raising, £2 billion. So Employment Hero have just successfully closed their round F fundraising, and they have raised £263 million. Not a bad little piggy bank to run a business off, is it? So yeah, I mean, I would argue that shows that investors believe Employment Hero are moving on the right tracks across all their markets globally, and what they're doing is going to be huge success. So yeah, congratulations to Employment Hero on that. Aaron, any thoughts?
It's crazy numbers, isn't it? Didn't they also get an invitation to Downing Street? I think I saw on LinkedIn, or at least they were stood outside. Maybe one invitation, maybe they just went and stood outside Downing Street.
Just being tourists for the day.
Yeah. But no, it's crazy numbers, isn't it? Because again, Employment Hero are still trying to get their foot in the door in the UK market. Well, they definitely deserve a seat at the table, don't they? That sort of valuation and that sort of investment opportunity. So, yeah, no, it's great news, and we've said enough about what they're trying to do and change the philosophy of what payroll is for the UK market, not trying to race to the bottom. So, hopefully, with a bit more money in there, they can actually succeed that, because it's going to be better for everyone, right? If we can change that philosophy, and we don't do that chase to the bottom for every accounting firm out there, then that's got to be better for everyone, that we get a, we can provide a better service to our clients will be happy to pay more. It's self-fulfilling, isn't it? So let's hope that they can use that money to help the UK get forward a bit.
Definitely. I mean, Pavel just made a really interesting comment in the comments saying, that sounds great, 260 million. How long do you think the positive investment atmosphere will last? You see, that's interesting because it's not been positive for a while. Like, I think the big products like Employment Hero are going out making good money. Even the products like Apron that have just done £12 million in funding. I think for the right products, there is a very positive investment economy out there at the moment. But, we've seen products where they can't get the investment and they're closing down. Like Connect 4 closed down because they couldn't get investment. I think investors are less frivolous with their investment now. And just because you've got software in your title somewhere or your description doesn't guarantee the investment like it used to, without really strict due diligence. I mean, Apron asked me to speak to some of their potential investors so they could get a customer's view on it. And the questions they were asking were pretty intense. Like it wasn't like the, just airy-fairy stuff. It was really down to the client pain point and how much is it relieving that pain point, et cetera, et cetera. So, it's for the right softwares, there is still a positive investment world out there. But every software who's going for investment is having to work harder to justify and prove that they're going to get a return on that investment for the investors. Sage's Chris Downing has said Sage has got a service called VAT Center that's free of charge to all accountants. Pulls through all the information from MTD VAT at HMRC and surfaces it in a dashboard for each client, no matter which bookkeeping tool they use for Excel spreadsheets for filing the VAT. So, Sage's approach here has been fantastic. Like, I own a couple of different Xero firm licenses at the moment. I can only log in and see VAT returns or even the VAT 100 report in one of those. I have to have a different email address linked to each account to be able to see the VAT 100 because I'm already agent somewhere else. QuickBooks, I don't have that issue, but I don't also have that central screen of all my clients. No. So I'd say Xero have got it completely wrong, which doesn't surprise me. QuickBooks is almost there, that any of my team can log in and see stuff. That's not an issue. Even if you're on different practice, even if you're on different QuickBooks Online accounting licenses, that's not an issue, which Xero can't seem to work out. But then you've got someone like Sage who's come along and go, cool, we'll just surface all this information tied into your agent account with HMRC, regardless of where they are. And I think all softwares need to be starting to move towards a more, no, if we've got the information, we're going to display it for you, regardless of where you're filing it. Well done, Sage.
It's
and thank you, Chris, for your weekly Sage advertising post.
It's definitely
don't worry, Chris. We love you. We were more than happy for you to promote the benefits of Sage. I don't think we know it well enough to be able to shout about it. So it's great that he's here championing it.
True. But the only one caveat I would say is that's on paper is a great solution, but really needs to be in some sort of practice management solution. It's the only thing, isn't it, when there's another place for accountants to go to get that data. That's the one thing we're fighting at the moment. We've got all these different data points all over the place. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, I think it's and I know Sage will have a solution in hand one day, but at the moment it is, we've got to go to this place to go and get the data, when ideally we want to be in this one place where everything's served to you, right? So,
definitely. And I think that's also why softwares don't like to do too much with APIs, because they could, like in theory, QuickBooks has got all this data, like Sage has got all this data, Xero's got all this data. In theory, they could they could destroy the practice management market overnight with all that data in one place, along with good task management, etc. QuickBooks are trying; they're not there yet, but they've got the idea and they're making steps towards it. With all the different channels of data Sage have got, it'll be interesting to see what they do with practice management, if anything, or how they go about it. Because, yeah, when you've already got all these cool features, like Chris keeps telling us about all these different features, if you can pull them all into one place, alongside GoProposals AML tool, Sage bookkeeping, accounts, payroll, like, in theory,
Ecosystem,
what you're looking for is just that linchpin now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, right. Okay. I'm conscious we've got 2 minutes left. Did we have anything else we want to cover? Aaron, we were on the road last week.
We were.
In the middle of nowhere. Chelmsford Racecourse is not, it's not a central location, shall we say. But yeah, we had a great day out at QuickBooks Roadshow Chelmsford last week. Another really well-attended event. A great venue. Once you'd walked underneath the racetrack to get to it, which was, yeah, interesting. I'd never walked under a racetrack before. But yeah, thoughts and takeaways from QuickBooks Chelmsford? You got any?
Yeah, very, like we said on all of them, it's been a very well-attended event. I think what we personally did differently this one, which I thought was really powerful, impactful, is we got to sit down with Brian from Digital Tools in a Cruel World. Get that one out. So we got to give feedback to them and kind of push it from there. But yeah, these events, they definitely feel like that's the future to go. Like, get into the hearts and souls of the accountants by actually going on their doorstep and talking to them there and then seems to be the way forward, isn't it?
Yeah, every event we've been to so far, there's always been one or two people at least I've spoken to saying the London event's great, but it's a big ask to get there and to do it. I mean, I'd argue if it's 25 minutes on a train, people in Chelmsford to get to London or Reading, I'd argue you've got an easy life. But yeah, each to their own with perceptions. Yeah, these big events are great, but by opening up the events becoming roadshows, yeah, I'm sure this is the reason Sage have always done a roadshow rather than a big event, is it becomes more accessible to a larger audience.
Yeah,
like,
isn't it?
Yeah, how many people turn up to the London event for QuickBooks? I don't know, but I'd like to say that over the 5 events, they've probably got 3 or 4 times more people to those 5 events than they did to that one big event in London. So economics says you do roadshows.
Yeah. I think the only selfish bit, we've said it before, is the fact that there's not that big announcement. There is that one more thing or anything like that, you know. No. But yeah, we'll find other ways to get those announcements out there, and the pace of development as well. I suppose, do you want it all to be waiting for one announcement in one conference, right? You want to be able to have an opportunity to talk about, release number 85 of the year or whatever we're going to have. So yeah, no, I think it's working well, and yeah, can't wait for the next one's Leeds, isn't it, next week?
Leeds next week, yeah, my final one of the roadshow before I jet off to Cyprus for 2 weeks. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to Leeds. I did a trial mini thing at Leeds last year, which was great. It was a really good, I think we're in the same venue again, actually, but really good venue, really good facilities. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one next week as my final one before disappearing on holiday for 2 weeks. But and then you've got Brighton after that, which is the rescheduled one due to train strikes a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Which I think, what a great place to end a roadshow in Brighton. Like, that should be an absolutely brilliant event. And to a certain degree, I am very envious that I'm not at the last one. The last one last event of any kind of series of events is always a bit special. Like, when it's the last show of a run of shows or something.
Yeah.
It's a bit special, that one. It's it's done. The excitement and stuff is there, and so I think you're going to be in for an absolutely brilliant show in in Brighton.
Yeah, look forward to it.
So yeah, right. Well, on that note, we will bring this episode to an end. Thank you to everyone that has commented in the comments. Thank you to everyone that's joined us over the last year. It's been a hell of a year, and we're really excited about what year two's got in store. So, as always, if you want to join us live, if you're listening back to this or watching back on this, join us live at 8:30 every Monday morning. We're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, you name it. We're probably there with our cluster bombing effect on social medias that we do. And if you're listening back to us and you've got any thoughts or anything, stick them in the comments and we will come back to you. You never know. We might even mention you next week.
Did hear. So even though she wasn't listening this time, she still had to come in and get that little comment in. So thanks for that, Kirsty. Even though she's got FOMO.
Yep. Brilliant. Okay. So, Aaron, what have you got on this week?
I'm off to Manchester as soon as this finishes. So, yeah, I'm off to Manchester Brewdog Hotel again, which is a hard life.
If Brewdog Manchester was a different country, you'd have temporary citizenship, wouldn't you?
Exactly. But I'm going to another filming event. So I'm going to go and film for Kaplan tomorrow. So that'll be a different experience, won't it, all around?
Yep.
And then after that, it's just a week of head down to get stuff done, because the week after is, like I said, Leeds. So it's going to be a busy old week, I think. So yeah, fun.
Definitely is. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. We will see you all next week. So goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me. See you, everyone.
Goodbye.